Hello everybody. If you want to read all the stories in full, please go to www.steveuk.blog. Thank you. Short story 481, The Curious Case of the Confused Cabbage. Upper Beginner. Barnaby Buttonsworth was, to put it mildly, a bit of a dreamer. He lived in a small, slightly wonky house in the very charming but occasionally damp village of Upper Bottomley. Barnaby's greatest ambition in life was to grow the biggest cabbage the world had ever seen. Not for any particular reason, mind you, he just thought it would be rather impressive. Every morning Barnaby would march out to his tiny garden, armed with a watering can and a very serious expression. He would talk to his cabbages. "Good morning, Kevin," he'd say to the roundest one. "Are you feeling big and strong today?" Kevin, of course, never replied. Cabbages are not known for their conversational skills. One Tuesday, something very strange happened. Barnaby went to his garden, as usual, and greeted his leafy friends. "Hello, Brenda. Morning, Cecil. How's the—" "Oh my goodness!" Brenda, who was usually a sensible medium-sized cabbage, was now enormous. Absolutely gigantic. It was so big it had knocked over Barnaby's gnome, Nigel, and was casting a considerable shadow over the petunias. Barnaby stared. He poked Brenda gently with his finger. "Brenda?" he whispered. Brenda remained stubbornly silent and very, very large. He rushed inside and grabbed his magnifying glass. He examined Brenda closely. There were no strange insects, no unusual colours, just a very, very big cabbage. "This is extraordinary," Barnaby exclaimed to his empty kitchen. He decided to call his best friend Penelope Plumtree. Penelope was the practical woman who owned the village's slightly chaotic tea shop. "Penelope, you won't believe it," Barnaby said excitedly into the phone. "My cabbage, it's huge." Penelope sighed. "Barnaby dear, you're having one of your moments again. Did you try that new cheese from the market?" "No cheese. It's Brenda. She's the size of a small armchair." Penelope, despite her skepticism, agreed to come over. When she arrived, her jaw dropped. "Good heavens, Barnaby, that is a big cabbage." They circled Brenda cautiously. "What do you think happened?" Barnaby asked. Penelope tapped her chin. "Perhaps too much water, or maybe magic," she winked. Penelope had a secret fondness for the slightly absurd. They decided to try and move Brenda. This proved to be a monumental task. They pushed, they pulled, they even tried to roll her, but Brenda was having none of it. She stayed firmly rooted in the soil, a verdant, immovable giant. Suddenly they heard a small voice. "Excuse me." Barnaby and Penelope jumped. They looked around wildly. There was no one else in the garden. "Down here," the voice said again. They looked down. Nestled amongst Brenda's enormous leaves was a tiny, very flustered-looking caterpillar wearing a miniature pair of spectacles. "Oh," said Barnaby, "a talking caterpillar." The caterpillar adjusted his spectacles. "I prefer Professor Cecil Cumberbatch, esteemed botanist and accidental growth enhancer." Penelope raised an eyebrow. "Accidental growth enhancer?" Professor Cumberbatch sighed. "It's a long story. Let's just say it involved a rare fungal spore, a misplaced microscope slide, and a rather enthusiastic sneeze." Barnaby and Penelope exchanged bewildering glances. "So," Barnaby said slowly, "Brenda, she's big because of your sneeze." "Precisely," Professor Cumberbatch declared. "My apologies. It appears my experimental sneeze had unforeseen consequences." They spent the next hour trying to figure out how to unenlarge Brenda. Professor Cumberbatch tried humming scientific-sounding tunes. Penelope offered Brenda a strong cup of tea, which Brenda unsurprisingly didn't drink. And Barnaby tried asking Brenda politely to shrink. Nothing worked. Finally, Professor Cumberbatch had an idea. Perhaps the opposite reaction, a reverse sneeze. This sounded highly unlikely, but they were out of options. Professor Cumberbatch took a deep breath, wiggled his tiny nose, and nothing happened. He sneezed again. Still nothing. He tried a series of increasingly dramatic and theatrical sneezes, but Brenda remained stubbornly enormous. Just when they were about to give up, Barnaby had a thought. He remembered he had bought a new type of plant food, guaranteed to make anything grow bigger. He had only used a tiny amount on his prize-winning tomato plant. Professor, Barnaby said, holding up the small bottle, did your experimental sneeze perhaps interact with something like this? Professor Cumberbatch peered at the bottle through his spectacles. His tiny caterpillar eyes widened. Good heavens! Yes! That's it! The Gigantogrowth 3000! I must have landed on some residue. Barnaby felt a little silly. The answer wasn't magic or mysterious spores, just his own over-enthusiastic gardening. So, Penelope said, a mischievous glint in her eye, how do we ungrow her? Professor Cumberbatch pondered for a moment. Well, theoretically, an antidote, but I haven't quite invented that yet. They all stared at Brenda, the enormous, sneeze-enhanced cabbage. Suddenly, a group of villagers wandered by, attracted by the unusual sight. They gasped and pointed. Blimey, Barnaby, exclaimed Mrs. Higgins, the village gossip. That's a whopper. An idea sparked in Barnaby's eyes. You know what, he said, grinning. Maybe being the owner of the world's biggest cabbage isn't so bad after all. And so Brenda the giant cabbage became a local sensation. People came from miles around to see her. Barnaby charged a small fee for photos. Penelope sold Brenda's big cabbage cake at her tea shop, which surprisingly was very popular. And Professor Cumberbatch became the village's resident and slightly accident-prone botanical expert. As for Barnaby, he still dreamed of growing impressive vegetables, but he learned a valuable lesson. Sometimes the most unexpected things can lead to the most amusing adventures. And sometimes a giant cabbage is just a giant cabbage, albeit one with a very interesting story. Story written by Gemini AI. Image created by Designer AI. To read all the stories in full, please go to www.steveuk.blog. Thank you.
Hello, this is Steve. If you enjoyed the story, please would you take the time to leave a meaningful comment and click on the like icon. If you want to know when the next story has been uploaded, please click on the notify bell icon to be notified. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel and tell your English learning friends so they can benefit too. Thank you.